internet, it is me, the Gamer Musician. And boy do I have a treat for you people today. Okay, so recently I was working on my timeline theory, and while writing that script, I realized that there's something that says a lot about the timeline of the Legend of Zelda series in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Now, while I am really excited to talk about this huge theory, I just didn't think it would be possible to talk about this with only one person. So I asked my mate, RMFH, another fantastic Zelda YouTuber. He makes great content from theories to walkthroughs, so I figured he'd be a great help in this huge theory. How's it going?
Yeah, it's going pretty good. Thanks for having me on. Want to get started?
Sounds like a plan. Okay, so Breath of the Wild is filled with a number of amazing map locations. And in fact, a load of these are actually references to, or in some cases, the same location as, locations from previous games.
Yep, in fact, I have a whole set of videos about this called Then and Now.
Yeah, all of you watch them, they're really good. But one location I've noticed, which is generally a reference to the Child timeline, is a location in the Gerudo Desert.
The Arbiter's Grounds, famously shown off as the 4th dungeon in Twilight Princess, and the location where Link unlocks the spinner.
Now, here's the issue with this once famous dungeon. Sand.
The Arbiter's Grounds has always been a sandy dungeon, what with it being a prison in the middle of a desert.
Right. However, this particular iteration of the grounds is excessively sandy in comparison to the previous version.
You're right about that. In Twilight Princess, Link was able to enter the dungeon, and it was a hulking mammoth of a building, spanning over 4 floors and 2 basements, so 6 floors in total.
Meanwhile, in Breath of the Wild, the only part we can see is the top of a couple of columns and structures from the top.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's what I thought. What could have caused such a huge covering? First, I thought that perhaps the Gerudo tried to bury it, Atari style, to cover up the massacres that took place there.
But that doesn't really make a lot of sense. I wouldn't think that burying it in so much sand is particularly effective. It would be easier to just destroy it.
Exactly. Which is why we've come up with a much more plausible theory. That the Arbiter's Grounds have been slowly covered by rising sand levels over the many thousands of years.
Now, before we move any further, I need to mention that Arbiter's Grounds have so far only been shown in the Child timeline. But that doesn't really mean anything, as there's no proof that they only exist there. And it's probably more likely that they exist in other timelines, as they were already fully built by the time of Ganondorf's execution.
Right. If, over the more than likely many more than 10,000 years, the grounds were slowly taken over and covered by the sand mass, it would make a lot of sense. We have never seen the Gerudo town from Breath of the Wild before, and it could be, and we believe it is, quite a new town built over the top of this risen desert.
The Arbiter's Grounds were covered slowly, and nobody really noticed it happen. However, over the many thousands of years, it was covered by the sand, leaving nothing else. This would also explain the disappearance of locations such as the Gerudo Fortress.
Now, the timeline placement of the game is a super questionable thing. No one truly knows where the game takes place yet. The most common theory is the Child timeline. However, I personally lean heavily towards the Downfall timeline. Look at my theory if you want to know why, card in the top corner. Regardless, I feel like this is something interesting towards all 3 timelines.
Now, to all of the viewers, I want to bring your attention to the doctrine of determinism.
Truly one of the most extreme shifts in any Zelda theory.
I definitely can't dispute that. Determinism is a concept that states that all things are ultimately caused by uncontrollable forces.
Yeah, usually it's the concept thrown around to try and state that humans have no will, but in this case, it's actually going to be used for a very different purpose.
We believe that this concept actually applies very well to the entire continent of Hyrule, that regardless of what happens, complete ruin is inevitable.
We've already seen this in the adult timeline. Hyrule is completely flooded. It looks like the same level of Hyrule-wide destruction will happen in another timeline.
It makes sense. In some twisted way, though the amount of time and actual cause of it may differ, All of the timelines will eventually force the residents out of Hyrule and into New Hyrule, similar to Spirit Tracks.
However, this video is already getting pretty long, so for the second half of this theory, jump over to RMFH's channel. I'll be over there with him to discuss the destruction further, and to even discuss some of the consequences of this.
Yep, both will be uploaded at the same time, so it should be up right now. Can't wait to see you all over on the channel.
Oh, and before you go, remember to like the video and comment any thoughts you have so far. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to me for some more video game music themed videos from the Gamer Musician.